All right, welcome everyone. Today we're very excited to have Lucy Adey and Emma Barry here with us from Good Soul Hunting to talk about structuring post-COVID teams with the Good Soul touch. So right away, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it over to these two superstars. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much, Jess, and we're delighted to be back and participating on this platform, and thanks to Julian and the team for the opportunity. So we're Good Soul Hunting. We are a executive search brand. We really focus in your area of fit tech and well tech and personalised health and sports. So all the wonderful things in the world that we're beginning to see come back online in varying ways. And I'm Chief Creative Soul, and joining us today also is Lucy, who's our Chief Executive Soul. So she's the boss, and we've been having a lot of fun during these times, really seeing many people displaced and having to move into different aspects of their work, businesses having to right size, resize, go digital. We're definitely stepping into a world now which we call phygital. So it's definitely a blend of the physical and digital as well. So we'd like to share some of the things that we're seeing in the search space, some of the pitfalls, some of the mistakes people are making, and just give some helpful tips, we hope, as you need to right size, resize, change, and be very agile moving forward. So there's some hit points we're going to cover off today. So it is a new norm. I think we've all agreed that when and if we go back, it is going to be slightly different, and things have moved on. We've definitely accelerated the adoption of digital, and we all know that. We know that the structure of our teams may have changed. We know that there's been an awful amount of furloughing and letting go, and definitely there's been a shift in the way that our organisational structures look right now. So we're going to talk about building a successful team going forward. We know that there's a lot of anxiety, and it's very hard to plan forward when you feel like you're in survival mode. So we've got a few tips around that. We know that a lot of teams have all of a sudden become operational. So where there were layers and layers of hierarchy, we know that now people are actually having to do the work because the teams have been sort of stripped out down to their minimal viable organisational structure, if you like. So Lucy's going to take us through a great section on, which roles should stay, which need to go, and which might need to be added in the new world. We're going to talk a bunch around articulating roles. So we see a lot of company structures that are not necessarily set up for success or set up with clarity for performance. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then just apply some of our secrets of search and pitfalls of placement. And some of the mistakes that we see when we're working with partners, observing lots of businesses, and also sharing some of the best practices of the best companies and workplaces that we work with. So I think a great way to start is, Luce, why don't you give us a bit of a market update? What's actually happening in the world of recruitment and people? And a lot has happened in the last 9 months and will continue as we head into 21.
Yeah, thanks, Em. I think the number one thing that we're seeing is just in the last few weeks, and I've heard this, we've seen this ourselves, but I've also heard it from a lot of companies and candidates as well. We're seeing a lot of movement now. So people are starting to get ready for whether it's the vaccine or whatever thoughts there are on that, and things changing in each market, each geography. People are really starting to look at what that means for 2021 and starting to prepare for, particularly for Q2, is the sort of date that we're hearing for teams wanting to get all set up. So definitely a lot more movement than there has been over the last 6 months. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that movement, sort of where that movement has been in terms of the types of roles. But we're certainly seeing some brands that are taking advantage of COVID and of the situation, whether it's, they've managed to maintain some strong revenue throughout COVID, and they're using this opportunity to then come up with a new strategy, whether that's a digital strategy or acquisition. So there is a lot of movement happening right now, which I think is exciting, but bearing in mind that a lot of other companies are still struggling. So I think it is a little bit of a mixed bag at the moment, but I guess overall my advice would be that if you can take advantage of great talent, of new strategies and things like that, then now is certainly the time to do it, because this is very much top of mind for everyone right now.
Thanks, Luce. And just a couple more things that we're seeing in there. So I would say there's definitely a massive amount of consolidation going on right now. We're seeing that in everything from software companies through to perhaps boutique superstructures, you know, land grabs. We're seeing a lot of people sort of come in and sort of how can we take back that real estate at a highly discounted rate. So unfortunately, as we see, there's a lot of pieces moving around the chessboard as we do during this time. And also people are still playing out various scenarios. We know that a bunch of people we work with are certainly, some are just going digital 100%, some are doing a blended view, and others are just hanging out for, or perhaps moving their stuff outdoors and really stepping into that big trend right now. So many things happening happening here forever. Great. So Luce, let's go on to the next slide. So some of the things that you can consider, and if you feel like you're a little bit paralyzed, or, you know, where do I start? A couple of things we are recommending, and one is, because sometimes we get stuck in between legacy, what's gone before, and all the old heads and all the old thinking, and then we watch all the Pelotons and all the Apples and all the people who are coming to market with all their resources, and we get a little bit freaked out. So we highly recommend, just given your resources and given where you are today and given what you think your dreams are for tomorrow, consider starting with a blank sheet of paper, where if you could start the company again, not that you will, you're going to have to bring things forward, but really think clearly around, how do I optimally set myself up for what's coming? And stop thinking, you know, 21 is going to be massively different to 2020. It's going to come just after December 2020. So we're really going to have to ride this out. It's going to be a slow recovery, and we know a lot of our business and the people watching this come from New York, which has been particularly hit. We've definitely really felt it on the East Coast. So start with a blank sheet of paper. What might that look like? And it can be quite a lean structure. So if I look at, you know, how the organisation of people are working right now, we're seeing flatter structures, more accountable structures, hiring people that are really in charge of what they do. They're the CEO of you, they're the CEO of me, they're doing their job, less hierarchy, faster moving, more agility, very results oriented. Now, of course, like any business, this is a wonderful time, and as Lucy alluded to, this is a great time to retool your business, to do deep back office ops, you know, to really get things lined up while we have a bit of a pause. Of course, your key structures you need in place, why you exist. And it's got to be bigger than just the paycheck, right? It's got to be, we get out of bed each morning to do this, to bring value to our community in this way. So purpose, you know, you really need to dig deep and check that that's as sharp and poignant and strong as that could be. You know, your values, you know, what are the guide ropes that are guiding all behaviours, especially now that we're often working in a blended at home, maybe coming together sometimes on Zoom all the time. How does that value set look, and how is it pushing behaviours in the right direction for your company? So really revisit that, and you can still do a great session over Zoom and all of these things. We've got all these technology tools at our fingertips to be able to use. And then, of course, the strategic initiatives or the objectives, or the bundles of work that you need to do as a business. And just get super clear on those. And usually there's too many of them, so get really disciplined around what you are going to do. And then we all know it's a relatively uncertain environment right now. So just pin down the things that are truths that you know are right. And then just have a little bit of scenario, be a little bit looser around the things that you can't control. So businesses that take control over what they can control are the ones that are flying ahead now and sort of seeing a little bit past this bump. And then, you know, we've heard a lot of organisations obviously have taken out layers in their structure. They've come down to what is the minimum team that we can actually operate our business at. And then what are the learnings that we're having around that as we right size, downsize, sort of make it a little bit tighter? And how can we use technology in the future to automate the mundane, to do the repeatable processes in a predictive and helpful and analysed data-led way? So I think there's certainly ways that we can, you know, build our businesses back stronger, slicker, sleeker, faster, more accurate, more predictively, you know, whether you're using AI, machine learning, automation, any and all of those tools. How can we do that as we come back? And actually making mindful structures. I heard a great team yesterday, and they pretty much as a company went through every expense as a company, and they found subscriptions that no one was using, and they found other things, and they literally went through, as some CEOs do when they come in and do a turnaround, is they look at every dollar that's leaving a business. So that's another interesting thing that you can try. As I mentioned before, flatter structures, so less reporting and more doing. More accountable people that are really great at what they do, and they do it in a way that's on brand and in culture with your organisation. We're seeing good success with pods. And in fact, Lucy and I, I think we've been part of a high performing team in the past, and we are at the moment now. Teams that perform very well together are generally slightly smaller. You got really kick ass at what you do. There's not a huge overlap in skill set, and you absolutely trust and adore each other, and you get on with the work. And then you can sort of see these exponential amounts of work being done for a relatively small crew. So really start to stretch your thinking around how you shape those up, and then plan for agility. The only thing I can promise you is there's a lot more change to come. So how are we going to be fluid, a little bit like water? How can we sort of flex our skill sets and move our resources around the organisation according on what is required that quarter, that year, that season, that mandate from government or local authorities? So just to be ready to move, I think is probably one of the key things there. So just some overall principles there, Luce.
Great, thanks, Em. So talking a little bit more specifically about roles, and I want to start with that blank sheet of paper because that's super important. One of the first things I would do if I was, in a people and culture role or a senior leadership role right now is sit down and sort of really critically analyze the team that I have, and thinking about all those things you just talked about: agility, having the right kind of structure, having the minimum viable team, and then layering on top of that the right values. Can you sit down and look at the people that you have and really honestly say that they are all the right people? Now, I'm not saying that you're going to do anything about that right this second, or saying, oh, get rid of the whole team and we'll bring in new ones. That's not what I'm saying, but I think you need to be really clear as to the situation that you have in front of you, and then look ahead to that future state, whatever that may be, whether it's just getting back up on your feet or whether it's a whole new digital strategy. Put it using that blank sheet of paper to outline what you would like to do, and then start thinking about that plan, to take it from the current team state to the future team state. And I think people, you tend to feel, quite negative about some of those conversations, or even thinking it personally if you're thinking about your team. But always remember that people know if they're not in the right spot, and if they're not delivering themselves, they can feel it, and the team can feel it. So that tends to become a distraction, and it often is something that stops you moving or growing as fast as you want to. So that would be the first thing I would do, is just get really clear and honest with what your situation is, what the future looks like, and then how you can make steps to move. Now, I also understand that a lot of, again, particularly in New York, a lot of you are without maybe half of your team or most of your team. And if things open up tomorrow, where is it? Is that team coming back? Where are you going to rebuild it? I've done a whole session on that topic. So I suggest if you're particularly interested in that element, go back onto the Boutique Fitness Solutions website, and you'll be able to find a session that's purely on that topic. But thinking about a couple of other elements of roles. The first one is, and you'll all know this even better than I do, is that it's going to be so important that there's a customer perception of safety and health. And obviously you're going to focus on safety and health, and you're going to do your absolute best for your customers regardless, but it's still that perception of the customer that's the most important. So how do you build out that operations team or customer success or front of house, whatever you call them, to really help people feel safe and well? And it could be things like the title. You could change everyone's title to something that makes people feel comfortable, or it could be about the communication. It could be the act of seeing people, your team out there cleaning. It could be you doing that as well as a leadership team. But really thinking about how you can kind of structure the team to really focus on that perception and help people feel more comfortable coming back in to the physical environment. The third thing I wanted to chat about is people. So obviously everything that we're talking about really comes back to people. And what we are seeing is a lot of brands actually starting to invest in the people space in terms of putting in an HR manager, or we call it in our days, people and culture. And so I think that's definitely something to consider if you are, particularly if you're looking to go ahead on a big growth strategy, whether it's a digital strategy, whether it's expanding your footprint, taking advantage of a land grab, etc. If you don't have the right foundation in terms of your people, then, same as building a house, it's going to be shaky. So I think that's something I would highly recommend if you're looking to do a larger strategy. Bringing in an actual talented HR person that can help you with this organizational structure, communication, culture, engagement, high performance, all of these things. But even if you're not, and it is a situation where you're just looking to rebuild, you want to get your studios back up and running, this is still absolutely fundamental right now. And you may not be in a position to bring on an HR manager. That's totally fine. But have you thought about who the best people in your team are to really lead in the people and culture space? And it might be you, it might not be. It might be somebody that's in a completely different role in your organization, but they have a knack for people, they understand communication, they have a passion for it. I think a really important thing is that they add value in the right way. So they don't become an agony aunt and, dial up the drama. They'll listen, but then they'll say to somebody maybe that's having an issue, have you gone and talked to that person? Have you, how can I help you deal with this yourself? So that doesn't need to be a role in itself. So there are creative ways, I think, for solving for that issue. And it could be an existing team member, and maybe you pay them a little bit extra salary if you're expecting them to do maybe a significant amount more, or they might just do it because they love that side of business. You could look at part-time consulting, outsource sort of HR functions. So there are ways around that, but I think it's underestimated how important people and culture is. And then moving really towards the new world and the digital side of things. And I know that not everybody is going to put in place a digital play, but I think a lot of people are. And regardless of whether it is digital or not, you are still going to want to bring members back to the studio. And so 2 roles that we're seeing come up a lot at the moment are growth marketing and brand partnerships. So they are 2 roles I had never heard of probably 18 months ago, maybe a couple of years ago, and now they are pretty much essential for growing businesses. So growth marketing, very sort of data and analytical driven, but also very creative. So that could be anything from all of the sort of Google Analytics, SEO side of things, but also thinking about fitness influencers and all the other creative ways that you can get people's eyes across your brand and get them either into studio or onto your subscription. So it's very much a specialist role now. And that is a really important one to consider. Again, it is something that you could look at bringing in from either an agency, or a lot of people are doing contracting in this space as well. And then partnerships, again, a new role that we're seeing, brand partnerships, getting out there, creating, relationships, whether it's with corporate clients or corporate partners or other fitness and wellness brands. There is just so many creative ways of adding value through partnerships these days. And again, that is a whole area of business that didn't exist a few years ago and is now something that a lot of growing fitness brands are looking at. And then the last one is obviously the digital side of things. So thinking about your team, what we've seen is a lot of people are just sort of making do with the team that they have, and everyone's quickly learning how to run Zoom and get videos online. And I think that's been amazing to watch everyone sort of grow in that space. But if you do have a digital strategy, you will need to look at bringing in external skill sets in that space. Particularly on the product side. So if you think about growing a subscription business, it's really a mix of that growth marketing and partnership. So getting sort of eyeballs on the product and getting people excited by it, but it's also about the product. So if you get someone onto your site or onto your app, and it doesn't sort of meet their user needs, then they're going to leave. They're not going to start converting from a free subscriber to a paid subscriber. So it really is a balance of those two things, and the marketing and then the product side of things. And that's where we're starting to see people bringing in talent from outside of fitness into that digital space. So I could talk a lot about all the different things that we're seeing, but I think that's the highlight. And like I say, if you are in a situation where you're a lot more stressed just about where your current team is and how to bring them back into the studio and get things back up and running, make sure you go back and have a look at my other session on that topic.
Thanks, Lou. So just to reiterate, content is king and consistency is queen. And we are definitely seeing a rise in quality. So people were very sympathetic in month 1 and month 2, and you could pretty much be in your pajamas in the garage. That was all good. Not so good now, and we've got some pretty hefty competitors. People like Apple and Peloton and all the rest of them. So we are out there with that, but you have your crew. And the wonderful thing about boutique fitness is that there is no stronger tribe, there is no stronger feeling of community than in the boutiques, and that has definitely come up in these times. And we've also got big tech coming in. So to Lucy's point, just to underline that, you need someone who knows the space, understands digital, understands product, and how to take that to market in a really compelling and ongoing way. So let's now look about performance. And this is an area that Lucy and I are both passionate about. We've sort of worked in this area for a few decades now. But this is an opportunity to re-articulate your roles, but also your company. Now, we've watched a few businesses, the very successful ones who moved early, pivoted hard, locked down the certain things, and just, had a few good scenarios out there who've done very well. Come back to the blank sheet of paper and be crystal clear around what you want. Now, this is everything, what you're asking for. First of all, what is your dream and how do you articulate it? What are the roles that you're going to need to achieve that? And again, Lucy, will concur, but, the amount of times we go in and we're briefed on a role and really they have no idea what they're asking for. And so trust me, we will find exactly what you're not looking for. You have to think and read and talk to other people and just work out. It's like the growth marketing role, relatively new in the world of work, but we have to understand these things. So looking at the business, and what we're generally seeing is that people are really strongly, of course, they've got to have a product, but they're really leading with sales. And then they're sort of phasing in the operational stuff afterwards, for example. So you've got to really understand, if I don't have sales, we don't have money, we don't have customers, we don't have, and then we've got to have product, then we do have to do some mop up. But you have to do it phased because we're all managing resources. So be really clear around where you're going, what the roles are needed to get to that place. And then once you have those roles, what are the exact things that you want them to be successful in? What does success in that role look like? Now, this is where we come in, and we're finding a lot of people are coming across from other adjacent industries, people who have done growth marketing, perhaps for retail or for a beauty brand or something digital, and they're able to come into this space and they're able to just go because they've been there before. We talk a lot about, talent X, a person who's been where you want to go, a person who knows the way because they've come from a more evolved industry, something like that. So be clear all the way through. Secondly, put the role to challenge. What do I mean by that? If it's an important role in the business, fairly senior, we would put that to challenge. We would say, okay, as part of this, you're down to the final 3. We're now going to be putting out a little challenge to see, well, for both of us to interview each other to see if working around here is going to work out for both of us. So it might be the 90-day plan. It might be, here's a few pieces of information. You don't give them all of them if you're going to see how they go in uncertainty. And I need you to launch a campaign in a month. What might that look like? So put the role to challenge, because we do care what you look like on paper, but we have had enough experience to know that what I have written and what I've done in my life may not transfer to what I can actually do in your business. Okay, so really put the role to challenge. We've reversed quite a few decisions based on what those people came back with. A lot of people are great at interviewing and they look fabulous on paper, but they're used to being very senior and they're not used to doing the work, for example. So, put it to challenge. Highly recommend it for a senior role. Open mindset, I would always be hiring someone who's agile, good to move. If we said, look, we're actually going to be combining those departments now because it's not working, you're now in charge of this, they would be okay for that. Fine, what needs to be done? Let's go. You've got to do that right now. Solutions-based thinking. You know, we don't have time for the moaning and the whinging and the negative Nellies. Like, we have to move forward. You're looking for a person who can shift the needle, has a delta. If you didn't hire this person, the business wouldn't move forward. Okay, and you've got to be that cutthroat about it. If I didn't hire this person, or if I hired this person, I wouldn't even notice. That's not the situation you want to be in. You're not just hiring bums on seats, you're hiring people who are going to shift the needle in meaningful ways. You need people who are self-managing. If we can't afford all the different layers, and nor should we. I think we're moving beyond the old school hierarchy of organizational structure. We want people who want to be here, love the job, eat work. Those sorts of things are what we look for very much when we're hiring. Hunger, passion, and going the extra mile. So this is really tapping in, how aligned is your person to the company values? Are they going to add energy to the business every day that they're in it, or are they going to take it away? And again, this is mindset, it's style, it's all of those things. But you have the pick of talent right now. We know the unemployment levels, at least here in the US, are just astronomical. We know that a lot of people are wanting to leave their boring, horrible, soul-destroying corporate role and come to work in the fabulous health and fitness and wellness industry, because they know that it's purpose-led. And there's so much money and resource coming into our industry right now, along with big tech and lifestyle and travel and ecotourism, once that all goes back, nutrition, all of these things are coming into our space. So it's a really good time to find people. Thanks, Luce.
Great. Thanks, Em. And just on that last point, something we've done in the past, I think people spend a lot of time developing out their values, and I think values are absolutely important. However, have you spent as much time when you're putting together job descriptions or going out to recruit, putting together those expectations of a person, and I don't exactly know what to call it, but things like drive and insights and curiosity and some of those things which can sit within the values space, but I think are much more tangible. And so something we've done in the past is actually build those out, and then they are the foundation of every role profile that we would recruit. And it's just a little bit meatier, I think, than values. So that's something that's potentially worth a conversation as well. Great. So the 3 secrets of search. So this is drawing on what we do every day, but you can certainly apply elements of this to your own recruitment processes. So the first secret of search is tell better stories. And I'm sure you've all heard of Simon Sinek and the why. This is really what this is about. People buy why you're doing something, not what you're doing. And that's exactly the same for people buying into you as a brand or as a person and wanting to come and work for you. Especially if you are maybe on the growth side, or you're a smaller boutique brand, you may not have people knocking down the door to come and work for you, or the people that you do have knocking aren't the ones that are going to be a game changer. So you really need to get access to this talent. And one of the main things that we certainly do as part of our process, and that you can do yourself, is tell a great story about who you are as a brand, what you do, what makes you amazing, what celebrities come and work out with you, what you're hoping to achieve, what your mission is, your vision, your values, like getting really clear on what that story is, and whether you put that into sort of a document or a presentation, or you're just very articulate at how you share it. That is one of the number one things that we find gets great people into our sort of search process, is being able to tell an amazing story. And that will kind of increase that level of candidate that you then have access to. The second, and Emma sort of started chatting about this before, so look for people who have been where you're going, particularly if you are in a growth phase. And I think in the fitness industry, we tend to focus more on passion than on skill. And you really have to have both. I think you need all the passion in the world. I think that's amazing. But if you want to grow significantly and make that change, you have to have the skill set and the experience as well. And so depending on your strategy, and like I said, some people are just looking to sort of reopen and keep things going as they were, maybe a different story for you. But if you are looking to make a shift in your strategy or growth, you need to find people that can help you get there because they've been there already and have learned a lot of the lessons. And then the third secret of search is it is a numbers game. It's all about volume and timing. And so you can put up an ad on LinkedIn or one of the various job boards, and absolutely you'll get some good people through that process, especially at the moment where there are a lot of people around and people sort of taking stock. But again, if you're really looking for that game changer and someone to make this shift in strategy happen, then I highly recommend sort of getting out there and putting some of the time and effort and volume into finding the right people who maybe aren't looking at the moment, or who are looking and just didn't see your particular ad or didn't connect with them because there wasn't a great story behind it. So, in an average search for us, where we're sort of looking through over 5,000 profiles, and we're reaching out to, anywhere between 100 and 200 people. And then we're having conversations with maybe 15 to 20 people. And probably you don't want to be doing quite that much when you've got a million other things to do, but it is about volume. And also the other part to this is not waiting for a vacancy to be available. You need to keep that conversation happening all the time. So if you're a CEO or a leader within the business, I've always considered that part of that role is to keep this pipeline of candidates for your business running. And maybe you have a KPI of once every week you're having coffee with someone that might be, a potential candidate for you in the future, because recruitment is so much about timing. And at the moment, everyone's starting to think about, what's coming out the other side. They may have been holding firm, not wanting to, rock the boat in their role at the moment, but they're starting to see the light maybe at the end of the tunnel for next year. They're the best people, and that's the best time to start talking to those people and get them excited about what you might have in store over the coming months, and then have it, be a really natural conversational process. So there are three of our secrets of search that I think can be applied no matter what role that you're looking to hire.
Thanks, Lucy. And probably just one more point on that final one is it's really unique times right now. Like we alluded to before, people are not necessarily in our industry. So we're having to look out of industry. So they don't know how to make the jump. They don't even know that they could be relevant in another industry. That's the other thing. So when Lucy tells about, number one, telling better stories, that's part of our job. As we go out there, we tell your company story, and we're able to tell the story of the person. And that company would never have looked at that person because they came from the automobile industry or whatever. But we're able to say this person got 302% sales increase through a growth marketing strategy that had to do with this. The content's irrelevant. It was all about the process and how they go about it. So we're able to draw those parallels because that's what we look for. So it was just, thanks, Lucy. That's awesome. And then that brings us nicely into some of the pitfalls. And again, we have many, many conversations and hours and experience with people speaking to these points. So the first one, we try to hire in order, and I know most people try this because we've all been in structures where you try to hire people when they come along, and then you put in the big boss, and then the boss doesn't really have the same vision as all the people underneath, and it becomes a bit of carnage. So usually we like to start at the key and the minimal viable and get the big leadership pieces in place, and then move forward. However, whenever you come across great people, there's also the contrary thought. When you come across amazing people, hire them and find something for them to do. So we're not absolute in our approach around this, because I think both can work. And once again, all your key people in your business should always be recruiting. There is always going to be business evolution. There is always going to be expansion. If you're not expanding, you're dying. All of that thought, the mindset stuff. So it's kind of a top-down and a bottom-up approach. And then you need to balance exactly Lucy's point around take stock of your existing team. You need to balance, what do we need to carry forward from legacy? What is useful? What serves us in the new world? And we lived through this at Les Mills when, we've been around for many, many decades. And how do you stay fresh as you move into the new world? And how do you hold on to the things that are still valuable, but at the same time be very clear around the things that don't serve you anymore? okay? And sometimes that is people and roles and thinking. We've been through values changes and things like that, because things do change. The team changes, the constituency changes, the world changes. So it's a matter of taking through what's going to serve and then inviting in the new as well. And this tends to be, and pretty much across all industries right now, it has been the digital piece. And I think it's been the adoption, it's been automation, all of those things. So just really looking at both sides of the coin, because there's always good to come from both. And then it's your job as leaders and managers and, evangelists for the brand to actually make sure you have the right ingredients going forward. And that can be a conversation with staff and whatever, but at the end of the day, you will have to make that. The next point, and we made it before, is that most good people are hiding in roles, okay? And yes, there's big unemployment right now, so some people are not in role, but most good people are valued and they're absolutely flying in some sort of role. So we invest as a search brand a lot of time finding those people who might be up for a new opportunity in health and fitness, who are doing something similar. Maybe they're not happy, they're ready for a change, they want to be more on purpose. Any of those reasons, we're very good at finding those people. Now, anyone, and you'll see this in the big entertainment companies, you'll see it in big tech, they shift around the CMO, they shift around the CEO. They don't go from hotel to hotel, they go from Netflix to Apple to, another big company. So we're definitely seeing, because people are headhunted, they know what that person can do in terms of the job that they do and the power that they bring. We are definitely in an age, and anyone who's got teenage kids like me will know that we've moved beyond basic needs into people wanting every day to be #living my best life. They want, people want, and our kids are the same, they want what they want. You can't just turn up and get a computer, a desk, and be thankful for the next 40 years. Not going to happen today. People constantly want to feel like they're on purpose, doing something that has a point, that they believe in, that isn't corporate bullshit, all of those sorts of things. So we're definitely moving beyond what we call the hiring hygiene factors, or just the things that ought to be in place, the basic tools. People want to feel fulfilled. They might want flexibility. They want to feel like they're surrounded by a high-performing team. And just picking up on one of Lucy's earlier points, high performers hate being surrounded by average talent. So if you're going to go, or poor talent, so if you're going to hold on to someone because you just haven't got the balls to get rid of them or whatever, you are absolutely not being fair to everyone in the team. So that's another thing that we learned quite early on in our career, is if someone is not performing well, you need to have all the conversations, but it cannot be tolerated, because you will end up losing the high performers as well. So just be really honest. And by the way, your business isn't charging forward. Immersive training. Shocked at how little sometimes training people get in their onboarding process. I know Lucy and the team are often hand-helping people, hand-holding as people come into a business. Think about it from this perspective. Some roles are what they are and people can be plonked in, and that's cool, and you have to build culture around them. But a person who comes into your business is going to be making thousands, tens of thousands of decisions on your behalf without you in the room. So you just have to think, does that person have enough experience? Do they know the brand well enough? Do I trust them? Do they trust me to represent us in the best light? Is this how we want things done? So the better people are trained in the beginning, the more on brand they are, the more people they know, the more integrated into the work they are, and they're actually contributing better and faster with immersive training. So really consider, what is a person's first, 7, 30, 60, 90 days with the brand? Who should they be spending time with? And that's another little trick. If you've got people that they shouldn't be spending time with, you have to look at culture again. So there's all these little things which, if you just remain really pure, what is our culture? What is our dream? Who is the best team that can move this forward? And then come from that perspective, and then be very open in a feedback culture base, then you will actually move really, really fast. And then whenever you're hiring, you're just always trying to replace yourself with someone better. Just always. Every time you get an opportunity, a role turns over, a new department's formed, a new dream comes along, put the best person that you can on there. Someone who scares you a little bit, because they're like, oh my goodness, I don't know that, but I trust you and I like you and you're on brand and you're obviously amazing at what you do, and you go, you good thing. That's kind of the feeling you want around recruitment. And they've certainly been the joy that that we've seen when we place roles, is when we know a person is just going to change into hyperdrive and then they're just going to fly. So that's some pitfalls of placement that we see, and then just bringing this home for you. So what does this all mean for you? It's all irrelevant unless it really relates to you. So just talking to the points that we've gone through, from a blank sheet of paper, write your optimal org structure, okay? And then with that, underneath, identify, so then look at your existing team and think, right, if this is my ideal, who can I pull from legacy? Who can I pull from existing team, and how does that get placed? Who unfortunately is not part of that future vision? Who do I need to add in? And then get super, super clear on, this is what we're doing. Here are the 3 things that success would look like in 12 months, 18 months, whatever. And then here is the roles that I need, and here is the part that I want them to play in that. The sales team needs to do this. The customer service team needs to do this. The growth marketing and needs to do this. And be really clear on that. Of course, it's going to change, but start with clarity. And then create your strategy for search. So Lucy's given you a couple of options. You can either work with people like us or other people in the market, or if you're doing it yourself, you have to have a strategy. Okay, and it might have to be a numbers game, and you might very quickly find out, and we often work closely with HR people in companies, because when you're running the culture and any performance stuff that you're doing, and you're supporting the CEO, and you're doing all the things, often you don't have time to look at the 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 roles, and the 200 reach outs, and the 15 interviews. So you just have to work out what that is. And then if you have 2 new roles that you don't know much about, you need to research them and say, I need someone who's worked for a brand like us, who might come from retail, beauty, travel, and something else. That becomes part of your strategy. And then I guess in terms of the pitfalls, just have a self-reflective moment and just say, given who I am as a leader, and given what our company is, and looking back on our past behaviours and performance, what little pitfalls have we fallen into in the past? What are some of our tendencies that we need to just watch out for? And I would always be checking that you've got someone who has an eye on your blind spots. Like, none of us are perfect. That's not the point of being human. But what our job is to pull together a team that is whole, a team that is complete, a team that has vision and drive, and a team that has detail and consideration, and a team that has a deep respect for each other. So those are, that is the way that I would approach just as some actions from this session. Lucy, is there anything that we missed, or anything you would like to add in conclusion?
I think the only thing is, being aware of maybe when you do need to bring in an external point of view. I think it's easy, when you're in the weeds and you're so passionate about what you're doing and who you're working with, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to maybe be really self-aware of the business. And, there might be an appropriate time, whether it's, that's something we're very happy to kind of give our thoughts and feedback on. If you want to share sort of your strategy and situation and talk through your team and things, we could certainly be that external point of view to maybe challenge on a few areas. Otherwise, you'll have other people in your network. But I think getting the best result, having that challenge and being really sort of having that ability to be self-aware and critical will end up with a much more positive outcome.
That's great. And that is one of our sayings, is help first, hunt second. So don't feel that you get tired all of a sudden into all sorts of deals that you can't get out of. So we're always there, and we're absolutely delighted to support Boutique Fitness Solutions. We do wish you all the very best. We know it's really, really interesting times, but we're in a phenomenal industry. We are getting a lot of help from other players. Things are moving very fast, and we all need to band together. We know that probably about 30% of our fitness market is not going to come back because of basically a year closed. And we are here to support you. And we do know that the strong will survive, the smart will survive, the adaptable will survive. This is the rest of our team. So you've got half the team here today. We've also got Matt and Andrea, who are busy recruiting for us right now. But we're absolutely delighted to have this opportunity. You can reach us. We have a website. We're also on LinkedIn. So just reach out. We'll get back to you pretty quickly. We're just here to help and serve this wonderful, wonderful industry. So thank you for having us on, Jess. And we look forward to chatting to you all some more in the future. There she is in the sunroom.
Thanks so much, ladies. That was incredible. Okay, so, and I'm still recording, but I'll have our video editor crop some of this out. So I know I only put this on the schedule for till 2, but if either of you have a few minutes, I'll follow up with a few questions that maybe then I can put into side videos to pull to this, because these are my notes.
Okay, great. I'm good. Lucy, do you need to go? I'm good.
No, I can stay. Just give me 1 second. I just have to
No
tell Andrea I'll be a bit late.
I have a page of quotes
Oh, good.
and a page of questions.
Oh, good.
That was great.
Cool.
Okay, awesome. And so this is maybe a little bit off topic, but it just crossed my mind because it's going to fit with a newsletter that I'm doing next week. So Emma, you mentioned about using automations and AI to kind of replace maybe some roles that studios have. And I've been thinking a lot about this, and like studios starting to use more targeted marketing and getting more clear with their data to automate some of these things and these reach outs to clients. But what would you say to studio owners that are worried to start automating some of that and using AI for things, and worried about it feeling cold and going against like the personalization that boutique was built on?
Yeah, I think you've got to go back to, first of all, we don't know what we don't know, right? And we're right at the beginning of AI's around us everywhere. Like, what do you think Amazon's relying on for us all to have everything delivered to our doorstep by, now? So rather than be fearful, and I know there's a lot of anxiety around this, but I would lean into it and learn a lot, so that's where we lean into, the keep me's of the world. I stay quite close to Ian because he's quite, he's running AI as a pure system, end-to-end back software system. So and CES is coming up. So I would highly recommend, if you can get accepted to the Consumer Electronics Show. So it's going virtual. I believe it's going on sale this week. I don't know if you can get in. You have to actually be tech. You got to have some technology background to actually get accepted in, but whatever. But these are places that I would lean into. So where there's anxiety, lean in, because it's going to happen. Look what happened to retail. So I think you've got to get real. Then the second thing is around not wanting to lose personalization, and the very thing that boutique was built on, is go back and explore the touch points. And again, I agonize over this in my book, Building About Us Boutique. Go back to the touch points, work out the human moments that you want to own. The greeting, the phone call, whatever the pieces of your brand that you really want to own as a human moment. And then anything that should be invisible, anything that so I shouldn't know, the booking and the payment, and when I'm prompted, and marketing messages that might be sent to me because I'm on my 8th of my 10th pack, and they know that I get paid on this day, and that really I'd like to renew on a 10th. All of that stuff can be invisible. That doesn't warrant the human thing, and it's going to give me the image that, because of my age and my sex and all the things that I've showed that I preferred before, it would feed me that doesn't need to be a human interaction. So I think you just got to know what pieces do you want front facing and what stuff do you want to be taken away, and then you need to stretch it. I was, chatting to all the team in New Zealand yesterday around the Les Mills thing. They've had to downsize their teams because of the times. So they've had to take out whole roles, where in the past you would have thought, oh, we can't do that. But when push comes to shove, and when you go to zero revenue overnight, strange things happen. And then, by the way, what did the members notice? Nothing, because they came forward in other ways, more meaningful ways. So you have to be stretched, and it's always in a recession or a time like this that you actually work out what's truly important. And by the way, technology is going to get better. Technology is better than us at some things. Accuracy, predictions, stuff like that. So as long as you've got, and then I would be working on how can you be better front of house. Like, I still have some pretty average human interactions. What the hell are you doing? If you're wasting salary on that, you should be dialing it up. More immersive training, be more human, be more connective, be more interested, whatever it is. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. I love that. And Lucy, you were talking about contracting, bringing contractors, like whether it's HR or marketing experts. Like, do you just have a quick like pros and cons of bringing in a contractor versus developing your own people totally in-house?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there are certain things, I mean, HR and growth marketing, I think in a perfect world, you have in-house, because I think they're both very dialed into who you are as a brand. So that's your perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world, as we all know. So that's where I think if you're looking at something that's a project, then that's a great time to use a contractor. If you look at it on the HR side, if you're looking to really build a culture and things like that, you could have somebody come in that could advise and could run some sessions and could work with the CEO, but actually it's all executed by other people in the team. So that would be like one example where you could sort of use a consulting approach for HR that would work fine. And then on using it like a growth marketing example, I think, maybe it was a new product launch or something like that, where there's a time period where you can set really clear objectives and get this person really engaged in your business early on, and then you could see where it goes. If they've done their job, they might have generated enough revenue for you to bring them in full time anyway. So I think it is, there are certain scenarios where it will work better than others, and then there's also for very specific kind of projects or pieces of work, there's all the online functions like Upwork and Fiverr and things like that. So if it's growth marketing, if it was maybe someone putting together something like you knew enough about it that you could say this is what I want, and they're doing the back end of it, then maybe that's something you could go to that sort of source for. So it's about, I think, being really creative at the moment.
And even in our experience, we're working with a few, we're pulling in some outside help, and they feel a part of the team. If people really get your culture and you're really clear on what your culture is, they feel a part of your team. And I'd say the other big trend that's coming is works for hire, where people are no longer going to want to pay for all the dead hours in your role. So if I kind of do this, but then I kind of do a bit of that and a bit of that, and then I stand by the water cooler for half the day, that's kind of gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think we're stripped back now. Yes, you want a great culture, you want to feel heard and contributing and all that stuff, but I definitely think that I can see that in the near future where you literally are pulling people in. And we've got a lot of colleagues that are working in businesses like that. And as long as you understand brand and you're really clear in the articulation of that, I think we're going to see more of it.
And I think as well, just leading on from that, is you have to, as the company, you have to kind of put the work in to have a contractor or a consultant be part of the team and invite them to things. Because I've seen in the past where it's not worked, where they've not included you in those discussions, or not invited you to any team meetings, and it's all been through word of mouth and sort of trying to understand what it is that you're wanting to do. It's not going to work in that way. So you have to put the work in to include them and act as though they are part of the team.
Right. And I guess on that, sorry, new question. How do you, like, any suggestions for what business owners should be supplying either a contractor or a new hire with? Like, how do you get someone to understand your brand and your culture? Are you just sitting and talking their face off? Or are you like giving them, I was talking to some of my insiders, and some of them are working with outside marketers. And I brought up something about our brand guide, and they were all like, oh, we don't have a brand guide. And I was like, what did you give your marketer? How did you get them to stay within so like, what should someone be giving someone to quickly have them understand their culture and their brand?
It's hard, isn't it? Because a lot of people haven't written all of this down, especially if you've got a team that have been there from the start and it's all in everybody's head. And I guess in that case, there's nothing you can do apart from sit down and spend the time. But ideally I would be, and this is a great time to be starting to, I guess, like codify all of these things, you know, while we're in lockdown, and pulling all of that together. I guess another way is, you know, if you sort of do the brain dump, and then one of the projects is actually that they feed that back as a brand guide, or as, you know, some kind of work product that they actually, so you kind of get kill two birds with one stone, could be another way to approach it.
It's part of the clarity piece. If you can't write it down, you're not truly clear. And if you haven't had all the debates and the arguments and hey, what about this? And I don't resonate with that. Like, if you haven't done all that, you're not truly clear. So you're actually just extrapolating out a culture that's not clear, and it's going to become a problem because it's not clear.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not hard, she says. It's a little bit hard. It's work. It's what Lucy was talking about. It's that clarity piece. If you don't know who you are and where you're going and what is in the house and what's out of the house, you know, you're creating work for yourself, because every time a new decision comes, and we used to be like this before we did brand work and before values were locked down, you don't know, because it's kind of all right. Should we do it or should we not do it? Once you're clear on purpose, on values, on strategic initiatives, someone will come in a nanosecond, you'll say yes or no. And anyone in your company would say yes or no. Or we'll look at that next year when we take that to our offsite, but we have no capacity for that right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you save yourself work now, save later.
Nice. Great. Awesome. I mean, that's all I had. Lucy, do you want to do like a little intro about yourself for me to plop in front of the other one now? Or you can also just totally record something and send it to me. It's up to you.
I can do it now. I'm trying to remember what was it? Like, I'm Lucy from Good Soul Hunting.
You didn't talk about Good Soul Hunting. That's the only thing from the old one. So what, I'm sorry, and now I'm blanking out. What would have been your company then?
Pipeline. It was Pipeline.
Yes. Yes. So your intro just basically talks about Pipeline. So it's totally up to you.
Right. So just like essentially what Emma just did for this one, but just me doing it for let's do that now, otherwise it won't happen. It won't happen.
So I'm good, right? I can.
You're all good. Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you, and send that over, and we'll promote you. Let us know the timeline, and we'll punch it out there as well.
Will do. I'll get it over to my video editor very soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. Bye. See you later.
Bye.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put it on speaker view, and then I'll just mute myself so that it will just stay on you. But yeah, if you just, so I mean, you had that intro slide that had like your bio,
right?
But truly, I can still just like cut out your little frame from that one and put your audio even over it, probably. But yeah.
So I can do that, or do you want me to share like our logo as the backdrop, or?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, let me share that. And do I need to do like the story or anything, or is it just literally like Lucy, Chief Executive Soul at Good Soul Hunting, we handpick executive, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I think just that is great. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Oh my God, I love you guys. I love the branding, by the way.
Thank you. It was so funny because so Emma came up with the name, and we were so split. So Emma and Andrea loved it. Matt and I were literally like over our dead body, like we're like not gonna have it. And it was so funny because I'm not a very I'm actually quite good at like the brand stuff, like keeping to a brand guideline and wanting things to look nice and all of that stuff, but I'm not creative. And so all I could picture was good hunting with a ghost flying through it. That's all I could picture when I first heard it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And we sent out a survey and stuff, and we were like, oh, there's no way that's going to come back as the number one, and it did. And then I had to be like convinced, but once I then saw like our brand person like put it into stuff, then I was like, okay, awesome, because you can't have Good Soul Hunting and then have a cheesy brand around it. It has to be very cool, and he's done a great job at that. So now I'm totally on board with it, and everyone loves it, and it's all good. And that's why we have Emma, because
So
we would
the icons and everything are so recognizable. And yeah, the way that they appear everywhere, it's great.
And it's funny because like all, you know, as I'm sure you know, like branding, you're not meant to have like, there are 256 different expressions of our brand, and you're really not meant to have all of that. And so, but we just use it all interchangeably, but it still seems to have made, it's aligned enough that you know kind of who it is, which is cool.
It totally is. Yeah, I'm trying to work on our branding right now, and I haven't even, like, I've just been really working on the tone and the brand voice and everything at the moment. I haven't touched the, you know, imagery and the look and everything, because I just don't even know where to start. I mean, we'll have to bring in a branding person. That's just not me.
Sorry, just while I think of it, I don't know if you know anyone, but Andrea is working on like 8 different marketing roles at the moment for a company that we're working with. So it's like different types of content writers, marketing coordinator, B2C, PR. So we're sort of looking worldwide because the client's based in the US, but they're open to them being like in Europe and things because the salary's on the lower side. So I don't know if anyone in the US would end up being right looking at salaries, but I just sort of throw it out there just in case you are sort of connected to people that might be interested.
Okay. I don't know a ton of marketing people really, but I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah. Thanks. Cool. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lucy Adey, Chief Executive Soul of Good Soul Hunting. At Good Soul Hunting, we handpick executive. Sorry, I forgot what we do. I'll start again.
No worries. And I actually realized I wasn't muted anyway, and a siren was about to come. So better to start over. I'll mute myself now.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lucy Adey, the Chief Executive Soul at Good Soul Hunting. At Good Soul Hunting, we handpick executive go-getters. Sorry, I'm going to do that again. This is why, do you know I did a video the other day? It took me 38 takes.
I totally hear you. I've started doing some myself, and sitting here like recording to yourself always just feels weird. So no worries.
Okay, I'll get it right this time. Hi, I'm Lucy Adey, Chief Executive Soul at Good Soul Hunting. At Good Soul Hunting, we handpick executive go-getters for purpose-driven health and fitness brands. Is that all right?
Perfect.
Cool.
Awesome. Cool. Man, I wanted to have a question for you about the agony ant thing because it's so brilliant, but it's so funny, but I couldn't think of anything. I was like, I want a 1 minute video of Lucy talking about the agony ant, but I don't know how.
It could go really badly, probably. All of my old days of being people and culture director would all come up into some like vitriol about complaining millennials or something. So.
Well, yeah, I know, because I was like, I wish there was a way to be like, how to identify the agony ant in your company or something, but I don't even know what that would, I mean, it's like, you know who it is.
Yeah, you do know who it is, I guess. No, the trick is knowing who they are before you know who they are. And that's what I was always good at, is I knew, we call it like my spidey sense. And so the others are all just much kinder people than I am. And so they all like love everybody. And I'm like, that person's a crackpot. That person's a crackpot. But I do know.
Where they identify themselves.
Yeah, it was funny because there was, so Matt, the whole reason this came about is Matt and I used to recruit together in Chicago. We recruited this whole team. And he's like, I'm essentially quality control for everything, because the one time that he hired someone without me being involved, the guy was absolutely crazy.
Oh my God.
And had to be like escorted from the building. So